Welcome to the Paige Trippin' Podcast. I'm Paige, the nervous system coach, neurodivergent mom of four, former educator, and author of Emotional Fire Drills. I'm on a mission to help us all learn to feel safe in our bodies so we can finally unlearn what no longer serves us, to question everything so we can finally grow together. This is our safe place to unlearn, question, and get real AF about the journey to who we are underneath all that noise. It's okay to trip along the way, as long as we keep moving forward together. Let's trip. In this episode, I'm joined by the incredible Stacey Badden, a neurodiversity champion and founder of Everything Autism. We're getting real about why our systems were designed to keep us compliant, how to find the courage to be a wave maker for the ones you love, and why being unapologetically yourself is the most powerful thing you can do. Remember, if any of these episodes bring up any emotions or beliefs about the topics that you are feeling triggered by, head back into my show and head over to episode called The Mini Unlearning Guide, where you can take a little mini journey of unlearning and get clear on what's here, why it's here, and what you can do to take radical responsibility for your own unlearning and get deep into the journey of growing and tripping forward together with all of us. It's not about being perfect, it's about being aware and to grow together. So with that, let's dive in. Welcome back to the Paige Trippin' Podcast. I'm so excited to be joined by the wonderful Stacey Badden, who is the founder and CEO of Everything Autism Consulting Services and the director of Taki Watonga Virtual Micro School. She is passionate about teaching autistic students about the globe, around the globe, not about the globe, but about the globe too. With more than 30 years of experience as an SLP early intervention autism specialist, a sensory enrichment therapist, and a child development specialist, Stacy is a powerhouse for autism education and a champion for neurodiversity. She enjoys co-hosting a podcast titled Shifting the Narrative on Everything Autism, which offers listeners the opportunity to view autism through various lenses. Stacy is passionate about empowering parents with strength-based strategies to support the needs of their child. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
It's good to be here.
Thank you.
I have to say, I sound like I actually might have done something with my life, right?
You definitely have, and you still are. You're doing such wonderful work and your wonderful school. I was loving, I was like, oh, I love this name. It like, I got goosebumps when I read it at first because I was like, oh, this means something. So I had to research.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love it. It is a word that means it's person-centered with a compassion person-centered way to refer to autism, emphasizing the unique way autistic individuals experience the world. And it's, I wrote it down, hold on. Um, the quotation says, in their own time, in their own space. And
Yes,
I was instantly like,
yeah,
oh my goodness,
yes. And it
so
was
beautiful.
it was a situation where I originally wanted to name the school after my muse, the first little 3-year-old autistic individual that I met, because he is the reason I found my passion and my purpose. But I couldn't, it wasn't feeling right, right? Like I was just
Yeah.
like, it just needs to. And Takiwa Tonga is exactly what I do with students. I allow them to be who they are and learn in their own space and time. And I really, I wish more educators could understand that, because you get so much. You get
Yeah.
so much from students in general, but you get so much when you just understand and allow them to be. It's just easier. But
It really is.
some people like to have control, and that becomes complicated.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so, with this beautiful word and the idea of in their own time and space, I want to talk about you and how you embraced all of you to create such a space for
Mhm.
students. Because if you yourself were not in this very pure, authentic space with this beautiful intention of allowing kids to develop and really get awareness of their authentic self and really learn to advocate and grow in their time, in their space, in the ways that benefit them, then you wouldn't, you wouldn't be able to lead that,
Yeah.
And so I really want to ask, what makes you you, and how did you get to this place where you can hold this space so
Yeah.
wonderfully for other wonderful people in the world?
So I mentioned right before we started that my mother um, often says I was very expressive and very Stacy. I've always been Stacy. Like when I tell stories and think back on my life, I'm like, huh, this is really nothing new. I think I was doing that Stacy thing. And when I say the Stacy thing, it is the joke used to be I live in Stacy's world, right? Because I function and exist in whatever I think is right, right? And I don't know what else is happening. I think that is part of my saving grace, but can also be an issue, right? That's two sides to every
Definitely.
situation. But I will say that I think my personality is just a strong-willed personality. I think I also have, I had a really decent upbringing in the sense of I was able to explore and read. My parents made sure that we had opportunities. So my personality combined with access
Yes.
can be a little dangerous, right, for the rest of the world. Because I am going to speak out, I am going to stand up, and I've always done that. Like when you see those Instagrams of those 2-year-olds saying, I blah, blah, I'm like, yeah, I think I was one of those, right?
I
I think I was
love
one of
that.
those. But I do think that children have always been important to me. I remember being the babysitter back in the day. And I just have always advocated for kids. I mean, I always wanted to be a mom, always wanted to work with kids. So I knew I was going to do something with kids. And I've always been a protector of children. Even when I think of the neighborhood, me being the person standing up for Miss Betsy's grandson who has Down syndrome, I'm the one like telling people we should let him play too. Like that is just me, right?
Yeah.
However, I will say, when I started adulting and went into the workplace and realized that people really are not honest. Some people don't care about the kids. I've really been fortunate to work with wonderful professionals, I have to say. I feel like the moon and the stars have put me in places that have helped me grow. I've worked with the best OTs I just have learned so much. And so I feel like all of these people that I meet, including you, whatever direction it leads me in, it's helping me to help others, I guess, and empower parents. But I will say my authenticity is just, it's just what I got. I mean, I don't even know. I'm not saying I haven't had, trauma and I haven't had like stuff that
Yeah.
happened and life hasn't been difficult, but I don't know how to be anybody else but Stacy. And I have always been very comfortable with it didn't matter to me if you liked me, if you agreed with me. My mother and I are clash because she's a very different personality than I am.
Yeah.
And her view of the world is very different. But I had my dad who just said, oh, that's just who she is.
I love it.
My,
You remind
my
me
family,
of my daughter, my oldest,
yeah,
when you said strong-willed, and I remember thinking as you're speaking and you kept saying strong-willed, and I wanted to say, no, you're just passionate.
yeah,
Like you're just deeply passionate. Because I always try to like I see my daughter, she's very much the same. It's like it's
mm,
very much around her, and it's like she knows what she wants. She's
mm,
not afraid to rock the boat, and that is necessary
yes,
for change. It's
yes,
necessary for our world, because if everybody's keeping the peace, then nothing's changing and everyone's suffering in silence, right? And we
exactly.
need those wave makers so
Mhm.
that we can see things in a different way, you
Yes.
know? Because you
I
can't
don't
learn to surf if there's no waves, right? That's
even know.
exhilarating.
And I think what's interesting is when I am making waves, right? I'm not thinking about intentionally making waves like that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this is wrong. We need to fix it, right? Or this teacher did
Yeah.
this. Somebody needs to like get this fixed, right? We can't keep
Yeah.
doing that. There is a domino effect. I'm a very good self-reporter. I call my supervisor when I worked in the school. I'm like, I just want to let you know, I stepped out of my lane because a student was being abused, and I went to the principal and told them if they didn't fix it, I'm going to call CPS. So just want to let you know when you get that email about what Stacy said.
Yeah.
That's
And that's such a beautiful
Mhm.
awareness too, because when we say make waves too, it's I always look at it as there's multiple ways to view a wave, right? You can look at it as damaging, or you can look at it as a new way to create a
Mhm.
happier place, right? And
Mhm.
so it's just, I love how you're willing to look at yourself and not just constantly outside. And I think that's where a lot of people get it, I want to say wrong, but they need to stop and look at all aspects. And it's okay to have those views outside of you and be like, well, let's look at this in a different way, but also be willing and accountable to take responsibility for when we know we've stepped out, because we're human, we're gonna, right? And we have to take accountability for those and be willing to be like, hey, this is what I chose to do in that moment. And I can live with that.
I would like to share, I love to tell stories.
I do
So
too.
I would like to share a story about this wonderful colleague that I used to work with, and she's now a good friend. But we were in the parking lot of our office, and she ran up to me and she said, I really wish that I could just say no, right? Like you say no. And I said, it's not really about saying no. I said, the difference between you and me is I'm okay with the consequences. And the consequences make you uncomfortable. And we ended up having a really good conversation because that was the honesty about it. It wasn't that Andrea didn't know how to say no. She didn't want people to be upset with her. She didn't want anyone to possibly ostracize her in the workplace, right? Whereas
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm here for the kids. I'm not like I'm here for the children. I am not
Yeah.
here to make a best friend. If I make one, that's great, but we're here to do the work. And so I think that is just difficult for some people.
Yeah.
We are by nature, we want to belong, right? We want to be a part of. And unfortunately, sometimes that means giving a part of ourselves, right? Because
Hmm.
we feel the need to be included. And I think I just am that I'm the duck that is walking this way and all the other ducks are imprinted.
Yeah.
I don't even know the ducks are going the other way, right? And it's funny because when I tell that story, I can hear my mother like just it, and I know I keep saying my mom, but my mother would always say, "What is wrong with her? Like, why is she like that?" Right? Because I was so totally different than the way she saw the world. But it is what it is. My teachers gave me detention. My teachers put up with my shenanigans because
Yeah.
I don't think they had any other choice.
Yeah, I feel very connected to you. It's very, like as you say, I'm getting detentions, and I was a loudmouth, but in a very negative way when I was younger. I was trying to get my parents' approval, and noticed that the only way I was being seen by them is when I was being bad or loud. So I
Mhm.
combined the two, and I was like, okay, well, what is my parents telling me about everything? So I'm gonna just be loud and like say all the things they like and cheat at me, and then maybe I'll get approval, because I was not good at school. I was not, I mean, I was like mediocre for most things. And I got so much detention. I always wanted to fight for the underdog, and I've seen that always brought through the whole thing. And I was the wave maker. I would fight against my dean because he would pick on people, and I'd be like, you're just walking around with your detention slip. And I'd say things mean in a horrible way and I'd
Mhm.
get in
Yep.
trouble. And it was never those aspects of like, okay, now as an adult, I'm like, okay, now I can take all of those pieces and see it and bring it to the world in a nicer, a
Mhm.
nicer way. But I did for a while, as you said, like your friend Andrea, for a while, I became complicit
Mhm.
because I tried so hard to be me in a world that was like, nope, you can't be that. And so I dimmed for a long time, and it created such a deep depression.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I had my daughters, and they really shook me. Like they were every piece of me that was told I shouldn't be in my face. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and so instantly, I always felt something was going on with my oldest, and a lot of the times the doctor was like, it's just you. And so I just took on that, and
Yeah.
but I still knew in the back of my mind something was going on, and I
Mhm.
still fought and I fought, and it's taken me 12 years to get her and the other
Wow.
three diagnosed,
Yeah.
and it took so much fighting. And so when I entered into the space of doing this podcast, I didn't realize how much neurodiversity we would be talking about, because I just was like, let's just see what stories come alive. But
Yeah.
neurodiversity has been very strong in what people are wanting to hear more about. And so I love having you on here, because I've been, researching and listening to some of your podcasts, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love how you speak about everything, and you're just like blunt. And I was like, I need to be more like that. I love that. But also I don't know enough sometimes. I'm like, I just will ask the questions. And so
Yeah.
when I was listening to your podcast, I know a lot of, like, now as I'm listening to you, like, where you stand. But like, when you want to change the narrative of autism, what would you tell people when they come to listen to your podcast? What would you say is like the narrative where you are trying to bring to the world
Yeah.
through all the work you do?
I think that initially, when I wanted to sort of start the podcast,
Mm,
my initial mission, I was really upset that when I would meet a parent and they would get, they just received a diagnosis, parents were scared. And I was like, parents shouldn't be scared. Like, that's like,
mm,
why are you scared? And they're scared because of the horrible videos people post on Instagram of what
yeah.
autism looks like, right? and and I was like, that like I don't want you to be scared. And don't
Yeah.
be scared of your child. My business started, just to sort of go back to, because it all kind of ties in together, but I started Everything Autism, out of working with a mom, just a mom. Like, somebody said, hey, Stacy, call Stacy. And I'm talking to this mother, never met her, 18 months, back and forth, coaching the SLP, back and forth, giving her strategies. And one day I said, I think I could do that for other families. Like, I think I could do that and not have to be in their house all the time. And that's when I came up with, I don't know how to run a business, but like, this is what I need to do. And I talked to a friend who worked at the university, and I'm like, oh, I feel like, I don't know. And I don't really want to run a business. I just want to do the work. Like, I just want to do the work. And she was like, just do it. Like, seriously, she just said, just do it. And 10 minutes later, I was on my laptop making a website. Like, and I tell her all the time,
Yeah.
your words really, like, catapulted me into just doing it. Something very
Yeah.
simple. Just do it, Stacey. I'm like, okay. Um, and then the podcast. I'm so sorry. Let me go back to the reason I thought it was important to
Yeah.
start a business or have a place for parents to come and become empowered. I was really frustrated that parents were getting a diagnosis and no one explained what autism was.
Yeah.
They just give them a piece of paper or say, hey, get ABA. The doctor doesn't even know what ABA is. If you ask them, they have no idea what is done in ABA. They don't know what
Yeah.
ABA is. They don't even know what ABA stands for. And they just give parents a piece of paper. Parents have no idea who to call, where to go, what you do, what is autism, right? Google can be helpful. Google can be dangerous. Google can be overwhelming. So
Exactly.
I thought, I need to find a way to help parents understand autism, but specific to their child,
Mm,
because it's not a cookie cutter, this is, right?
yeah.
And then I met Torin, and he said, I didn't want to do a podcast. I am one of those people that what everybody else is doing, I'm like, I don't want to do that. Everybody's doing that. Yeah. But I always wanted a radio show. I mean, in high school, I was like, I'm going to have a radio show. Had no idea
Love
what I
that.
was going to have a radio show about. I
Yeah.
just knew I always had something to say, and
Yeah.
I needed a place to say it. So Torrance said we should do a podcast. And I was like, oh my gosh, so many podcasts. Like, do we really need to do a podcast? And then he said, well, I think we should do a podcast, but and I said, well, I don't want to do like the typical, like I want it to be something with a purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to be a moneymaker. I want it to be something that we're doing with a purpose. And
Yeah.
then that's when I came up with shifting the narrative on everything autism. And Torrin said, that's too long. I said, I don't care. That's what it's going to be. Like, it doesn't fit into a logo cutely, right? I'm like, I don't care. Like,
Exactly.
this is what I want it to be called because I want people to know what they're signing up for. And my envision, for a lack of a better term around it, because I'm not really a visionary, but what I sort of thought about was if I can get one person to listen and that one person listens and they shift just a little bit, then they're going to want to know more. And then they're going to meet someone and that person is going to shift. And that is really what I want, right? Like, I
Yeah.
can't talk to everyone in the world, I can't meet everyone. So I need to have this like domino effect of people shifting around me, and I can proudly say that has been happening.
Yeah.
And it's, I wanted to share a story.
You're oh, keep them coming.
Um,
I talk through stories. So everyone's
I,
like, you talk
I
a lot of stories. I'm like, I know.
I know, I love
Sorry.
stories. I love stories. I just
How
sort
we
of got
connect.
like an envision popping in my head moment where, so I go to this jazz fest every April, and ugh, I'm getting emotional talking about it because
No.
I want to shift the narrative and I didn't know I was shifting it. I didn't know. I
Yeah.
didn't know how many people are getting shifted. And I went to the Jazz Fest 2 years ago. I was blown away that people were coming up to me saying, oh, I listened to and I watch your post and I listen to your podcast and and I told my aunt, and I'm like, what? Huh?
Oh,
Like, people are listening and they are sharing.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, all right, this is good. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that
that was
makes
a
me so much.
really, it was, because you don't know,
You
right? You
don't.
don't know
Yeah.
when you're impacting people. I know that the people that have impacted me as I grew up, I made a conscious effort to go back and let them know. I went to my math teacher, I went to my Girl Scout leader, I went
Oh.
to my grandma, and I said, this is what you did that made
Mm.
me the person that I am. Because as teachers, we have students, we don't know what happens when they
Exactly.
go into the world. And it's always fun when my students call me back.
Yeah. I was a educator before I
Mhm.
stayed home with
Oh,
my kids.
really?
I was a math and science teacher. I kind of got endorsed in everything because I was like, I don't know what I want. So I just did it all. Now knowing that was my ADHD. But yeah, I taught middle school, sixth grade,
Mhm.
and I
Oh
loved
my
it.
gosh, middle school, sixth
Yeah, it was
grade. Oh,
wonderful, and I fell in love with education. I technically got into it because my dad told me either you go to college or you get out, and I was like, I'm going to college because I'm not ready.
yeah.
And I knew I wanted to work with either kids or elderly, and I got into teaching. And you'll hear this if you're listening to this episode, you'll hear it on the previous one. But I was telling Christina that I got into my first job right out of college from someone I knew, and they put me into a classroom mid-January, like right around January, and I was told I was going to teach one thing, and I ended up having to teach everything. And I walked in on the first day, and I was put in a bilingual classroom, and I'm not bilingual, and half my students did not speak English, and I turned to the principal and I was like, I think this is illegal
Mhm.
and I should not have this job. You need to find somebody else because I don't know what to do. And he
Mhm.
said, You'll figure it out. And that's the last that I heard of it. And I was like, Okay, no one checked in to say, Hey, how are you doing? And I just was like this little doe-eyed person, like I had huge visions of what was going to happen. And I cried every day for 2 months. And then I went into ESL and I was like, All right, I got to get my ESL endorsement because no one's going to help them. And I worked with the students and I was like, okay, who is willing to translate with me? You can get a buddy, and
Mhm.
anybody who offers to translate gets extra credit on everything you do because
There
you
you
are
go.
working 10 times harder than I am using more parts of your brain. And they're like, what?
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, you're smarter than I am. You're doing more work than I am in your brain
Yeah,
every day,
translating is
listening and
not easy. It's
not
not easy.
easy.
Yeah.
But that's how I got into ESL. And then I feel like my whole journey from teaching through parenthood has taught me how messed up our systems are and how we are just being taught
Mhm.
to be complicit in a
Mhm.
world so that we can be controlled through everything we do. I feel like through my whole journey, there has been very little amount of support, and I've
Mhm.
had to fight the whole way. And if I didn't have that personality where I never give up, I might stop for a few months because I'm so depleted, but I
Mhm.
never give up. I would not be where I am
Mhm.
learning and trying to reparent my bigger girls and parenting my younger girls. I have four girls,
Mhm.
twin 5-year olds, and then a 13 and an 11-year old. So there's like two different parenting adventures happening. One where I knew nothing, and one where I know too much. And I'm
Yeah.
like, am I making right decisions? But it's a system, and that is not
Mhm.
aware of anybody but one type of person and tries
Yeah.
to fit us all into that box.
Yes.
And if you
Because
don't
that's what
fit
it was
in,
designed for.
exactly, and it's
I,
working,
yeah. People
unfortunately.
people think that it was designed for the benefit of children. I'm
No.
like, no, that's not why public free access to education was designed. It was
Mm-mm.
designed to make us fit into so they could profit. Like that is really what it was all about.
Exactly.
I and you know, when you were talking in terms of like taking a pause, right, but still coming back to sort of
Yeah.
stand up and everyone has a different, what's the word, like threshold, right, for how much and who they can push back on. And I work with parents, and I work with parents around the globe that have lots of cultural demands that are unfair,
Yeah.
and oppressive, but unfair. And so there is a lot to sort of discuss when it even comes to them advocating for their child, because they don't even advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
They are doing what they've been told to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that it's like I get it, but I don't get it, right? Because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
compliant. I mean, I've realized I'm just not compliant. I mean, my
Yeah.
youngest son said to me, he's 26 now, and he said to me last year, he's like, Mom, have people ever made you do something you don't want to do? And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm like, Mommy's been fired. I've been put out. I've been ostracized. I
Yeah.
have a favorite story about just how much I apparently made a big wave that the SPED director of the entire district, and it's a large district,
Yeah.
went to human resources. Nobody likes to go to human resources. Changed the job description so that I was no longer qualified to do my job there. And then I would have to go and get other
No.
accolades. And I remember thinking, wow, I have really, really, really shaken things up and didn't even realize it, because that's a lot of work
Yeah.
to get rid of me. That's a lot of work to get rid of one.
Yeah.
And that was fine. I was like, fine, I'm leaving, I'm gone. I'm not, doing it back. And it was fine. I did my business full time, but that is sad that
Mm-hmm.
someone was so determined to get rid of someone who was simply just trying to make this school safe for
Yeah.
children. I wasn't even
Exactly.
asking for anything like extreme, right? Um,
Yeah.
but I, I'm the older I get, the more I understand. And I don't know how people who are 100 years old are sitting in their sanity. Like, I really don't,
Yeah.
because the more that's revealed, you're like, that's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to do. Oh my gosh, like that's what
Yeah.
I'm,
And you can't unsee it.
yeah.
And but that's what gets me is when I hear people talk about things and then people still are like, but that's fake. And this, and I'm like, what?
I mean,
What? Like, what?
yes,
How can you still look at this differently? And
yes.
it's very interesting to me. And I just the naive little girl inside me is hopeful that it's just because they're scared and that
Hmm.
they're not just truly
Hmm.
hurtful people.
Hmm.
But um, I hope that that's just what's happening and that they can face their fear. And I know we can't change everybody. I mean, I would like to, but I hope that through us coming together and more people being willing to speak of uncomfortable things that are not, you know, what the
Yeah,
society system wants us to talk about, right? That we can start changing the narrative in general, because I
and
think that's the hardest part is to admit, you know.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And even so, I'm gonna say a pet peeve, right? I usually don't
Yeah.
like to go sort of negative, but it gives context to what we're talking about,
Yeah.
standing up for children. There are several times where I have been in IEP meetings and I am with the parent and we are, doing what we have to do and advocating and making sure. And I'm the one that says, up, no, up, up. So, oh, blah, blah. And then we leave the room and then the other therapist will say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that. And then I'm like, why didn't you say
Exactly.
something? Why didn't you back me up? Right
Hmm.
now, I didn't need them to back me up because I'm fine and secure in what I said, but it's frustrating because these are children. These
Yeah.
are children. And if you are a therapist or a teacher and you know something needs to be said, you know you need to stand up for it. What are you doing? Like, what are you
Exactly.
doing? Like, how do you even go to bed at night knowing you just like allowed this to happen?
Yeah.
Because you're afraid, because you're
Exactly.
scared. And I'm going to segue into a positive that relates exactly to that, if you will tolerate another
Oh,
story.
I love all the stories.
So I have this young speech therapist that I have been mentoring over the years, right? I knew her mom, we went to high school together. And she called me when she graduated her undergrad and she called and she was working at an ABA clinic. And she called me very upset. And she said, I'm really upset because they are being very abusive. They're making this child eat his food out of the trash can. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's
What?
young, right? She's young,
Yeah.
20 something, early 20s. And I said, well, that needs to be reported. And she said, but it's my supervisor that's doing it. So who do I report to? And I said, well, you can report to, there's a board that you can call. I've reported things. And then she said, well, I'm just going to see if maybe I can. And I said, okay, what's the problem here? She said,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to lose my job. And I said, I understand that. I understand that. But this is what I'm going to tell you. I said, I know you and your mother. I've seen your post on Facebook. So I know that you have a relationship with God and you have faith, right?
Mhm.
So I need you to help me understand that if you stand up for a child and lose your job, why you don't have faith that God will give you another one.
Yeah.
And she paused. And I said, I'm just saying, I have been put out. I mean, like I can't tell you how many times that, people are like, oh my gosh, Stacey, I'm like, listen, I can't like just think
Yeah.
about it. And 2 weeks later, she called and said, I reported and I resigned. And she said,
Oh, cool.
Anne, I got a call randomly from this person that needs. And I'm like, see,
Beautiful.
do the right thing. I know that you're afraid, but if you do not find the strength to step up and stand up now in your
Hmm.
early stages, you are going to really not like yourself when you just sit quietly and watch things happen. And
Yeah.
I know you don't want to be that person, right? She's young. I mean, I understood. I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
Everyone is not Stacy. But I understand that children need someone to speak up for them. And
Yeah.
the complicitness of watching the abuse and not saying anything for a job that doesn't even pay well
Yeah.
is not a justification. It's just not. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that was a good story. And now
Yeah.
she is finishing her clinic master. She's got her last rotation
Amazing.
and she is going to be one of these powerful neuro affirming speech therapists. And I'm so excited. It's
I love it. And I have a question. So, as my sister had kind of talked to me about some things too, because I was like debating about bringing my kids home. I did homeschooling on and off for the
Mhm.
past like 4 years. And with my ADHD and still not knowing how to manage my own stuff, I'm like, am I helping or hurting this situation? Like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know. And so we keep going back. I'm like, my oldest wants to go and then she wants to stay. So we've kind of done this back and forth dance. And she was like, because I have been very against the system, and I'm like, I'm against it, and I just feel so frustrated with it. And so she had mentioned to me, she was like, well, she's like, one, let's talk about privilege here. Like, let's talk about your privilege. Not many people have the privilege of being able to decide these things on the fly. Like, you can stay home with them, you can do this, you can do that. But what happens if you keep being called back to schools? What is this being like? What is it telling you? Like,
Mhm.
you can be in the system and help to change it. And that's where a lot of my mindset goes, is like, okay, but what can I do? How can I change the system? I'm just one. But I think if everybody thought like that, obviously we still are in the situation, and the amount of people who are learning about child development. We know so much more, obviously, with the rise
Yeah.
of autism diagnoses. It's not
Mhm.
something random, it's
Yeah.
more awareness, right? And more knowledge and understanding. And so the question I have for you is, one is, how do you feel about the changing the system? Like, I always like to, that's a big question, because it's not just one thing, obviously, that's
Mhm.
going to change the system. But where do you feel like, as a person who is wanting to stay in a system, as an educator or as a parent, what are things that you feel, as the head of your own school, that they can start to do if they don't even know where to begin, or they're just so overwhelmed with so much information that they don't even know, like, what do I even do?
Yes.
What would you feel for that person? I mean, that's a loaded question,
I have
obviously,
a
because
lot to say about that.
but like, the first step, because that's where, on my mind, my ADHD brain goes to the end, and I see the whole picture, and then I get paralyzed, and I'm like, I don't even know what to do.
You
I
do.
want to change the system, but where the heck do I even begin? And
So
it's more than
I
just one aspect, obviously.
I have come to the conclusion after 35 plus years of being a grown-up professional,
Yeah,
call it, and 20 plus years on this autism train of doing what I love to do. And I really think at this point, the reality is the system needs to go away. It needs to
yeah,
go away. And then, of course, the question is, well, what do we do? What do you mean?
yeah,
And so this is how I present it to parents. One, how much energy and time are you using dealing with the school? A lot. You're
yeah,
exhausted, and your child is still not getting what they need. You could use that energy, even less of it, to homeschool. Like, seriously.
yeah,
So if a parent calls me and they're stressed about the school situation and it's been ongoing and ongoing and ongoing, then my I sit with them and I say, let's look at, like, what how much time are you spending?
yeah.
Homeschool is not as difficult as people think.
Yes, it's
It's
not.
really not.
It's really not.
And school does not take that long. The reason
Mhm.
children are in school from 8 to 3:30, the standard time, is because babysitting for people to go to work, because we live in a capitalist country. Yes, other countries have that same sort of schedule, but that's just because I think everybody just kind of followed suit. People go to work, but it doesn't take that long. Most of the day is waiting, waiting your turn, standing in line, waiting, going to lunch, standing in line, waiting. I'm not saying that school cannot be wonderful. I loved school. I
Yeah,
absolutely loved school. I had a wonderful experience in school. It's not like that anymore. It's not like
yeah,
that. And we've made a decision. My daughter-in-law, we're not sending my granddaughters to school. We're just not. Like, they're going to be homeschooled. Um, but when I think of the energy that parents use and they're spinning and spinning and spinning, I'm like, this is not working. So
yeah,
what I have said is, we have to go back to finding community. If we
mhm,
don't start talking to our neighbors, if we don't start collaborating with other parents, and I will share a story that just popped in my head. I lived in a very small town when I had young children. Never wanted to live in a small town, but it was the best place for me to be with small
yeah,
children. And in the summertime, we had our little neighborhood, and in the small town, all the women are working in the education system, right? That's just the way it is. So we had this little co-op of my house was the snack house. Betsy's house was the pool house. Such and such's house was where the kids hunted for frogs and snakes, right? This house over there. So the kids could go from house to house, and then we coordinated it so that I would say, oh, hey, listen, they're at your house swimming. I'm going to run to the grocery store, right? Or whatever it was.
Yeah.
We had a community of support that we created so that we could enjoy our kids in the summer, but maybe have a little time to breathe. I don't know, whatever we wanted to do, take a nap, read a book. And our kids could also enjoy being outside and playing with other kids. Now, that is not something that everyone can do per se in terms of how we did it, but we still can get back to community. We've lost that.
Yeah.
We
We
have
have. Oh,
so
definitely.
lost community. And I think that's why parents feel so exhausted because you're doing it all by
Yes.
yourself. Like there's no support and there's
Yeah.
no break, right? There's no break.
Hmm.
It's like run, 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 run. Like you're constantly moving. And I think we have got to get out of that routine and say,
Yes.
I'm going to go back to what I need. And I
Hmm.
need to shift my priorities around how I spend my time.
Yeah.
And I don't, a lot of people are uncomfortable with that because,
Yeah.
as you said before, we've been ingrained.
Hmm.
You gotta get your retirement, you gotta get your promotion, you got a 401k, you gotta get. I'm like, I mean, when you look at television commercials,
Yeah.
you're bombarded
Oh,
with
yeah.
prepping your finances for life. And I'm
And
like
even people
seriously,
are being fearful of each other with all of the fear
yes,
mongering out there, like,
yep,
oh, all of the abductions and this and that. And you
yes.
can't trust your neighbor because you don't know who they are. And you're like, oh my gosh, where do we, like,
And the
what in the
reality
heck
is,
is happening?
couldn't trust your neighbors before in terms of nothing that's happening now wasn't happening before. I mean,
Exactly.
when we talk about riding our bikes, because I grew up in the free range, where
Yeah.
we're just outside all day till the streetlights come on. I
Yeah.
mean, the stuff that we saw is
Oh,
the
yeah.
stuff that's happening now, but it like wasn't they
Televised all day long.
I think we just had
Everywhere you look, it's like kidnapping,
exactly.
this and that. You're like,
But
oh my gosh, it must
exactly.
be happening every second of the day.
It is. And I think that, now that I'm saying it out loud, I think the difference is yes, we saw those things, but we didn't have time to focus on it in a negative way because we had time to play. We had time to
Yes.
play. We had time to play and just be a kid.
Hmm.
And we don't have that anymore. We just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, kids are micromanaged. They're inside all day for various reasons. I'm not, trying to say anyone's doing it right or wrong, but the reality is that it is making a huge impact on how we are navigating society.
Mm.
And I was last February, I had an opportunity to go to Guatemala, and it was in a mountainous area. I had to take two trains, a bus, and a car to get there. Most of the families don't have electricity, running water, but it was a wonderful experience. And one of the things that I had culture shock
Mm.
because I saw children play with joy, and I had not seen that in so long in the States. And I
Yeah.
remember just standing and watching and thinking, oh my gosh, this is what we need this back. We need this back. Um, and I was sad when I got home because I was just like they don't have running water and electricity, but look at the joy. Look at the inclusivity they are doing without any adult direction. Any
Yep.
adult direction. We are talking and doing trainings and all this stuff on like how to do inclusion. I'm like, children know how to do inclusion. The adults make it
Hmm.
bad. The
Oh,
adults
yeah.
interfere. Yeah,
We make the problems
yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
100%. I always say, like, the kids should run the world
Yes, yes.
because,
Follow their lead. Follow their lead. They
yeah,
know. They know.
they really do.
Yeah.
Instantly know. And it's like, my girls inspired a lot of
Mhm.
the work that I'm doing. And so
Mhm.
I created a workbook for myself for healing because I didn't understand at the time they were my ADHD meltdowns. And so it's called Emotional Fire Drills. And it's literally teaching myself how to ask myself, what do I need? Because I was always just giving.
Mhm.
And then I'd burn myself out and I'd have these huge meltdowns and their behaviors were triggering. And it was just like a nasty cycle. But they triggered it in me because they always took what they needed
Mhm.
and they didn't ask for permission, and it wasn't like anything. And then instantly I hear all the voices in my head like, well, your kids shouldn't just do whatever they want when they want. I'm like, but they took what they needed and they didn't ask permission. If they needed to climb, they'd climb. They'd
Mhm.
find something to climb. They'd
Yep.
move their bodies in the way that felt great for them in
Yes.
that moment,
Yes.
and it was not offensive, right? It
Mhm.
wasn't breaking rules, but it was, they knew what they needed. And so where did I, at what point did I lose that? Right. And so you kind of went back into that mindset, and I created this with that intention of like, no one's asking themselves anymore what they need. They're asking, what should I do to get
Yes.
to this point, instead of
Yes.
what am I needing in this moment to be my best self, or to
Yeah.
make a good decision, or to have a communication with somebody in a positive way, right? We're always just trying to, it's always outside of ourselves. And kids are, yes, they do that. They have that like, well, what, I
Mhm.
need this, and they have their
Mhm.
tantrums, but when you look at it, they're very curious driven. They're
Mhm.
not
Yes.
judgmental.
Yes.
They're interested. But
Yeah.
we as the parents hear their question, and then we start to think and fear, and we're like, oh my gosh, don't say this. Oh my gosh, don't do this. Oh my gosh, don't say. And now
Like we just
we
break
shut
it.
them down.
Break
We
it. Yeah.
break him. We're
Break
doing
it.
our world so
Mhm.
different. We're like
Mhm.
breaking everybody down, and then you become
Yes.
an adult. Now you got to fix everything. And you're
Yep.
like, what if we just flipped it?
Yeah.
Then we'd have no no breakage. And you
I've
would
got
feel great.
exactly. I've gotten to the point where when parents will say, "Oh, so what, what should I do for their sensory schedule?" Right? I'm
Yeah.
like, just make things accessible. They know what they need and when they need it. Like
Yeah,
seriously, just make it
exactly.
accessible. When I'm teaching, I have a student, he has a chair that spins. Sometimes he needs to spin upside down. I just keep teaching. It's fine.
Exactly.
Like he knows what he needs and when he needs it, right? And it's fine with me. I know that he's listening. And I also understand that some people that's difficult for, but they need to really like move past that or teach
Yeah.
another group of
Or
people.
learn how to regulate themselves so other people don't trigger. I always tell my girls, the world's loud. It's not
Yes,
going to get quieter.
yes, yes.
So you
And
got to be able to keep
and
control and keep your boundaries,
yeah,
and
and
ask for
letting
what you
go
need.
of the need for control, like the
Yes.
need for control and boundaries. When you were talking about knowing what you need, I think a lot of people don't know what boundaries they need to set.
Yes. Because
And
boundaries have been taught to control people,
yes,
right? This is
yes,
the boundary. You can't say that. You can't do that. Well, why?
exactly,
Tell me
exactly.
why.
And the story I was telling about the colleague, it came from we were in a meeting and my supervisor said to me, "Oh, Stacy, we have this family and they really need, and I love working with families that may be a little bit more
Yeah.
challenging, right?"
Yeah.
And so she asked me if I could take on the case, and I said to her, "I would love to take it on. I can't now. I'm full. But when I sort of release some of these other families, I can take it on." And that's where my coworker was like, "I can't believe you just said no." I said, "But if I would have said yes, I wouldn't have been able to do my job well. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to meet the needs of the parents. Like, why would
Exactly.
I agree to do something that I know I'm going to be overwhelmed with?"
Yeah.
And that I think people don't feel comfortable. People don't
Mm,
know what to say, how to say, or even what boundary needs to be expressed. But children know. Children
exactly.
know. They
Yeah.
will tell you honestly. They put their
Hmm.
hand on your mouth to tell you to stop talking. It's too much sensory overload.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like we haven't talked a lot about autism, but we have in a different setting, in a different way, right? Because
Yes.
we're teaching the unlearning of being curious, and we're teaching everything we know about autism has been fear mongered and
Yes.
been so stigmatized in the way that it's fearful for people to look at, right? And they don't want to look at something that's going to make them uncomfortable, or have to question or
Yes.
get curious, right? And so, and I will admit this, I don't feel like I had, I mean, it's funny to me because my sister found out recently she's autistic. I'm ADHD, and then my two nieces are autistic as well, different
Gotcha.
um, levels of the spectrum. But I say I did not have exposure to anybody who
Mhm.
had autism until I moved into my current house, and my neighbor has autism. And my first experience was one that felt really negative because we found out that he gets very excited about coming into people's houses. He's very curious, so he'll come in and he'll walk around. Well, he's a big boy, and my girls were really little. And the first time we had it, he rushed in, pushed us, and then
Mhm.
went in. And so instantly, my kids, who are very anxious, were terrified, and I didn't know what to do,
Mhm.
And so the way that we were approached to by the family, it didn't sit well because I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Like I really don't. And so my
That
husband was like,
makes
call the
sense.
police. Someone came in the house because we didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. And that's my first exposure. And I watched the system also in that sense of like, they just kept saying, call us every time this happens.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, but like, what do I do? My kids are terrified. I don't, like, so I tried to, I started researching, learning about it, but they just kept doing that. And then eventually the police called DCFS on her because the parents, because he kept getting out in the winter. And I was just like, so she thinks we did it. And I was like, this is not what I wanted. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was safe because he's running into people's houses. God only knows what house he runs into. I don't want him to get hurt. Like that was my intention. But obviously, I didn't know what anything I was doing or anything about this type of situation. And you lean to people that you think are supposed to help you,
Yeah.
and then it leads to worse problems. And I'm like, everything that happened during this time was all wrong. I didn't like, I don't, and I feel very ignorant in this sense of like, I'm an adult and I've had no exposure to different people, right? And you look at your life and you're like, how much don't I know
Mhm.
in this world? And
Mhm.
what a wake up call. And I just, that was my first experience with autism. But even though I lived with my sister who's autistic,
Yeah.
so it's like,
Yep.
you don't even,
Yeah.
there's so many different levels. There's so many different
Yeah. But
ways that
it
autism
makes
comes into
sense.
this world, but it's sad, and
Yes.
I look at that and I'm like, I hate
I
this.
know.
I like that this was my experience and this is his experience and their experience. And moving forward, I go, now I stop and I ask, like, okay, well, what is my role and what do I
Mhm.
do? Like, how do I navigate this next time?
Mhm.
And so I've started to look at it different, and hearing other people's views when they would ask about it, because it would happen during parties and things like, and you just see the fear
Yeah.
from so many people,
Yeah.
and it's disheartening, right?
Yeah.
To look at it and you're like, oh, and the
Mhm.
way, and thinking about all the things that his family goes through too on a daily basis, and then putting myself in their shoes. And yes, my kids are scared, but there's just so many levels and layers
But that's a
intertwined.
boundary that should have been respected.
Yeah,
Like, uh, I don't like my neighbor's dog pooping on my yard. Like, I'm
yeah,
sorry, if your dog likes my lawn, like,
yeah,
fine, great, but he can't poop on it. Like that
yeah,
has to be a boundary set. And I am a firm believer, and I tell my parents all the time,
mm,
listen, I want you to embrace, I want you to accept, I want you to allow whatever sensory needs, but that
yeah,
doesn't mean you can't set boundaries. They don't get to get everything at the store. Like, they
yeah,
don't get to run all over to the neighbor's house, right? And ask
yeah,
for cookies. Like, that is not something that is what I don't even want to say inappropriate. We all need boundaries,
yeah,
whatever disability, whatever learning difference, whatever communication difference. But there's ways to do it that are humane. And I think
yeah,
that is the issue of some people they struggle, right, with setting those boundaries for their
mhm,
child that has autism, Down syndrome, cerebral. It doesn't really matter, right? Whatever,
yeah,
even children who have no diagnosis of any kind. So I think that that's where that sense of, and I know you were a new neighbor, that community, right? Like getting to know your neighbors and understanding. And
yeah,
I remember when we took in foster children, and I went to every neighbor and I said, this is what you cannot do because they will totally take advantage of that
mm,
because of their trauma. So, because I knew my neighbors were great, right? I was like, they're going to
yeah,
fall. And I didn't want my neighbor to get, and this is in reference to when you have children who have been sexually assaulted, they do a lot of inappropriate things towards men because that's all
yeah,
they know. And so I didn't want my neighbor to be uncomfortable. I didn't want my neighbor to get in trouble. So I went to everyone and said, and then we set clear boundaries. And yes, it was work. It was work.
Yeah.
I wanted everyone to be safe.
Yeah.
Um, I think that, we just need to have conversations like we're having. People just need to
Yeah.
talk to people. You know what I find interesting? I don't know where you
Yeah.
are, where you grew up. What part of the country
I'm
are
in
you?
Illinois. I'm in
Okay.
a little suburb right out of, I grew up in Chicago.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then we moved into this little suburb right
I
outside
have a student
of
in Belvedere, Illinois.
oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I grew up in Louisiana. We have hurricanes, right? When you have a natural disaster, now in
Yeah.
New Orleans, Louisiana, we all talk to our neighbors. We all know our neighbors because we are on the porch. That's what we do.
Yeah.
However, when you have a natural disaster, that's when you're forced to
Mm,
go out and meet
yeah.
your neighbors. And we see it all the time on the news. People learn about their neighbor. I didn't even know my neighbor was caring for their husband. Why do we not know that
Yeah.
until a disaster happens? Why do
Yeah.
we not know what's going on with our neighbor? I'm not saying we all have to. And yes,
Yeah.
some neighbors that are just intolerable, right?
Yeah.
But I think that we are so reactive in our responses instead of proactive. And I
Hmm.
think that we have not realized how the fast pace of technology and life has shifted what's important.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to a parent getting a diagnosis of autism for their child, they have to shift their priorities. And that is
Mm,
really hard.
yeah.
It's really
And to
hard.
do that without community is
Yes.
even harder,
Yes, it is.
and that's the hardest part. My sister, her daughter has a rare form called Pitt Hopkins. I think there's
Mhm.
like, and I forgot exactly the statistics she had told me, but we've learned so much through
Mhm.
her, and so it's just become this, thank goodness she has community, right? She has us
Mhm.
and we're learning together. And I mean, she's doing a lot. A lot. I'm like, you taught me so much.
Yeah.
And she's very type A and very much like, depending on my ADHD where I am, but I'm like, she's taught me so much about my own kids, like learning
Yeah.
about their 504 and IEPs. And I'm like, I'm a very emotional human and she's a very analytical, and she'll come in with her
Ah,
data and books. And I'm like, oh, you're listening to me. Thank God. Trying for so long. I'm like,
I
I'm
know.
such a deeply emotional person that I'm like, I have to learn how to become data driven. And that is extremely hard for me, but I will
But
get
this is the
there.
way I see it. I think you should be emotional driven.
Yeah,
And the other person is data. And then we all just band
come together.
together. And like, I had this argument with my
Yeah.
spouse. You can edit this if you need to, but
No, I love it.
the
I leave it
long
pure. I love it.
the long and the short was, everybody brings something to the table, right? In a relationship,
Yeah.
in a marriage, with family, right? Supposedly, you're supposed to bring something to the table. And so there are things that she can do that not interested in doing well, not really don't do well. And there are things that I do. And then there was a situation where it was expected that I was supposed to be able to do. And I was like, no, 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 wait a minute. I don't have to know how to do everything. That's why you're here. You do this well, I do this well, and then we work together and we put it in play,
Yeah,
right? I don't want
exactly.
to, yeah, I don't want to I don't want to have to do everything well. Like that's freaking exhausting. Like what the heck?
Yeah.
But it was really startling that she was like, huh? But when I turned it and said, well, okay, so these are the things that I do. Now you have to learn to do them. Well, that of course shut everything down. And now we're all just doing what we do well and we work together.
I
But
love it.
that brings me back to community, community,
Yeah.
community. It's like why do we wait until there's a natural disaster where this is the neighbor that has the chainsaw to cut the trees? This is the neighbor that has oh my gosh, what do you call it? The generator so we can charge our phones, right? And we all kind
Yeah.
of work together. We need to do that now,
We
every
really
day. We
do.
need to do that. And
Yeah.
bringing it to the autism community, Parents need to do that. I match and pair up parents all the time. I'm like, you need to talk to another mom. You need to talk to another mom. You cannot stay in your space without
Mhm.
family support of no one understanding what you are experiencing.
Mhm.
And that is important, and it
Mhm.
lifts the weight off of
Yeah.
everyone. I will now I have to share a story. As I received a message this morning from a mother in St. Kitts that I just started working with about 6 weeks ago. And she was so excited because her 2-year-old, today's his birthday too, he said something for the first time that she'd never heard
Oh,
before. And I got excited, not because he said something for the very first
exactly.
time. I got excited because I knew the reason he was able to say something or demonstrate what he knew was because she shifted her perspective on autism. She now understands, right? And
Yeah.
so I see all the time when parents come to me during coaching sessions and they're like, oh my gosh. And then I say to them, so why do you think that they were able to complete their homework on Wednesday? Well, I had the visual schedule and I made sure. I'm like, yeah, that's good. All the strategies. I said, but you've changed.
Yeah.
You've changed. You're not overwhelmed and stressed. You understand why they need to move their bodies. So now
Yeah.
that you understand all of that, your child feels that go away, and
Yes.
then everything is easier. It's just
Yeah.
easier. I wish I could box it up, right? Like,
Yeah, what it's so
wow.
true. I mean, children with autism and neurodivergencies are very intuitive
Yes.
beings. And I was telling my sister, I would watch her daughters during certain days of the week and take them to school.
Mhm.
And during the last year of me doing that, because I had to step away because I was like, I'm so overwhelmed with my kids because they hate it at school. We had so many meltdowns and I was so stressed. I had 6 kids every morning, getting them ready for school. Well, and so my autistic niece, she who's nonverbal, she uses her communicator. She started to cry when she'd come to my house and she never did that before. And I would be so sad. I'm like, what did I do? I don't know what I did. Like, I'm so stressed out. And she was feeling, and I've noticed I think it was like the last 2 times over the summer that they have come over that she didn't cry when coming in. And I was like, I'm feeling my stress levels
Yeah.
lessen. But that I was like, I told my sister, I was like, I wonder if that's why. Because the stress that I was feeling, I wasn't being with anybody. I was
Mhm.
just managing everything. I'm like, get in
Yeah.
the car, put your
Yeah.
shoes on, stop screaming, do this, do that. And I'm like, I'm so stressed out. Like mornings were terrible. And it's taken me about a year now to fully like get out of that. I mean, I was dreading school years and we had a great year this year. So I feel like we're now on a balance. But children who, one, are nonverbal, two, are very intuitive. They read you and I'm learning so much from her, just like watching the way that she'll
Yeah.
respond with me. And I check in, I notice like now when she's in the house, I'm like, what kind of mood am I in? And if she doesn't come near me, I'm like, oh, something must be off in me. What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
Because I
Like,
know
woo.
she's such a joy. She's
Mhm.
like the happiest kid I've ever met in my whole life. Like everything is just joyful for her. And so when she avoids or she'll push you out of the way, like, get out of here.
Mhm.
I don't talk to her. I'm like, oh no, Auntie P must be not in a good mood today
Yep.
because you don't want to
Yep.
be near me.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
just truly lives life of joy and it's so
Mhm.
beautiful to watch. And, just that understanding of us as parents that whether your child is autistic or neurodivergent or not, your
Mhm.
kid from
Yes.
birth on,
Yes.
even in the womb, is
Oh, yes.
developing is adapting to your nervous system, what you feel they feel. And we feel it with each other. So,
Mhm.
not just
Me too.
kids, but we each other. And if we all can just take that time to just nurture ourselves, one, check in with ourselves, and as you said, learn to read each other and be
Mhm.
there for each other. I really truly believe a lot of people in our world, I want to believe everybody, but most people in our world are just living in a state of fear and anxiety, and no
Mhm.
one is truly trying to be rude. And so if we could just meet people
Mhm.
with compassion
Yep.
and
Yes.
assertive boundaries,
Yep. That's
our
it.
world, it's easy. It's easy. I like I just it's so easy, but it's
I
also
know.
so hard. But
Yes. It
I
is.
love our chat, and I definitely would love to have you. I know me and Christina want to have another
Mhm.
conversation about what did she say? Colonizing neurodivergency. And so
Ooh,
maybe
that's
do like
gonna
a
be good.
a bunch of us together and have some
That would be
conversations.
interesting. I would,
Yes.
you know what I would love to do? So I'm going to say what I would love to do, but I want to
Yeah.
point out what you said about the intuitiveness. When it comes to autism, there's this horrible myth that autistic individuals don't have
Mm.
empathy, and they're actually extremely
Oh,
empathetic.
yes.
And people need to understand that. And
Mm.
kids are going to stay back from the person that they know does not feel safe. And when
Yeah.
you shove them to go hug Aunt Mary, they're like, nope, Aunt Mary's not safe. And it's not that Aunt Mary is going to be physically abusive. She may wear that strong perfume that is sensory
Yeah.
overload. And we all know the old person in our family that had that old person smell that I guess we all eventually get. I don't know. But the empathy is so strong. And for some kids, it is so heightened that it's
Hmm.
hard to be in a room with people who have that kind of energy.
Yeah.
I would love to come and talk about homeschool,
Yes.
autism, and what it can look like so that listeners can have an idea. Because I do find that when I talk to parents that call me about homeschooling, I'm like, you're not doing school like traditional
Yes.
school. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to look like her homeschool or his homeschool or that beautiful homeschool on Pinterest. It can look
Yes.
exactly the way you need it to look. I have parents that homeschool, supplemental homeschool, we call it, but they have to work. They cannot bring their children to work. The school is
Yeah.
nurturing, but they're not really good at teaching, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't know how and their expectations are not as high. So the children go to school, but the parents just supplement academics on the weekend. It doesn't take that long.
No, it doesn't. No, my
It's
kids would
not
be like,
really
"This is
that
all the
much.
schooling we're doing." I'm like, "Yes, because life is school, and we're gonna go do math at the grocery store today, so we don't have to sit down at a desk. Like, we
I
can do
mean,
it like this."
when I look at the curriculum as an educator, and I love school. When I tell you I
Yeah.
love school. I would go to school my entire life if someone paid for it. Uh, School is not the same, and it's not child-centered. It's no
No.
longer are children able to just be children. And teachers who really want to teach are not able to be teachers, right? It's just
Exactly.
about data, data, data. So I think that parents need to understand it can look differently and it's okay. And then when you get with other parents that are also doing it, it's
Yes.
easier. And then you get co-ops, and then it's really easy and
Yeah.
fun.
Yes.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah, I love
that
that. And yeah, because I know the biggest fear I had was like, oh my gosh, well, what if they want to go into college? And then what do things do I have to be aware of for that? And will it school transfer? And again,
exactly.
the fear, right?
Exactly. That is the ingrained of what
Yeah.
we have to do because this is what somebody decided and wrote it
Hmm.
down, and people bought it and sold it, right? Give it
Exactly.
away for
Oh,
free.
I
Yes.
know.
Yeah. 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 And so, I mean,
It's so
I think
frustrating.
that people are catching on. I think it's
Oh, yes.
trying to figure out what do I do, right?
Hmm.
I will end with a story of
Perfect.
a parent that has become a friend because I mean I've been with them for like forever. The kids were 3, they're now turning 12. And this parent is very different personality than I am, right? Not much of an extrovert. And so there's always this discussion of I want to, right? I want
Yes.
to do. And I said, you can't make yourself be something different. You
Mm.
just have to find people that have what you need that you feel you want for your, like, I'm saying it wrong. It's the yin and the yang. The yin and the yang.
Yeah. Yeah.
Find
You can't be
extroverts.
everything, right? You
Extroverts
have
marry
to find a
introverts
balance.
because the extrovert's got to bring the introvert out sometimes, and the introvert's got to bring the extrovert in most of the time. And that's just the
Exactly.
way life is. But I think that the fear will go away in numbers. We have to
Mhm.
remember numbers. bring security. We cannot do it alone. We just can't.
Exactly.
We can't.
100%.
Yep.
And that's such a beautiful way to end too, because we need the community. And I know I was going to ask you, what would be your, if you had to leave the world a message, what would it be? And I feel like you already have said it multiple times, is build that community.
We
Build,
have to. We
yeah,
have to. Like
yeah,
we really, really have to. I can't
we
even
really do.
stress enough. And I've gone to lots of places. I've volunteered in lots of countries and been very, very fortunate to be able to do that. And I see the difference in other places. So what if they don't have a TJ Maxx? Who needs a TJ Maxx when you have
Yeah,
community and joy and safeness for your children?
yeah,
That's all I'm
exactly.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I love it. This
Yeah.
is beautiful. This was such a lovely conversation. And there's so many topics. I'm like, oh no, I didn't ask all these questions, but I'm like, it's okay. We'll have her again. The
And
time
I'm a
we'll
talker.
just build this. I love talking too. So it's very, I love that you tell stories, because I'm always telling
Mm.
stories and everyone's like, I'm realizing that's also an ADHD thing, is
Oh
how to
yeah.
connect with people is to
Yes.
tell stories. So
Yes.
I love that you told stories. It's like, I feel so much closer to you.
It's funny you
I feel
say
like I
that
know
because I
you.
remember I remember when I read that about ADHD because I'm self-identified ADHD, but I
Okay.
remember when I read that about ADHD people share stories to connect because I used to say, "Oh my gosh, Stacey, like don't be narcissistic, right?" Like, but I'm not being narcissistic, but I'm like, why am I
Yeah.
telling stories? Because people are saying that's how we connect. That's
Yeah, and
right.
that's just how my brain, I like, if you can
Mhm.
tell a story that
Mhm.
aligns with a similar core belief or something like that,
Yes.
it shows that you are community.
And you
And a lot of different
understand.
cultures too, like, would
Yeah.
tell stories.
Mhm.
Why? Because it brings people together in unity, right? It's not about a you or I thing, it's a community building. It's we teach lessons through stories, and stories
Yeah.
are just beautiful. It
Yeah.
helps people visualize the
Mhm.
concept in real time as well. And
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved all your stories.
It does.
So
It does.
I
That's why
think,
we read.
and you
That's
have
why
such a
we read.
beautiful way of speaking as well. It's just very captivating. You just pull people in. So
Oh, thank you.
I love your
Can
voice
you
and
write a
just
note to
your
my
tone.
first grade teacher and tell her
Yeah,
that?
I will. I will.
You know what my report card would say all the time, besides the fact that I was always in detention for talking. Not detention. My teacher would put a circle on the board and I would have to stand with my nose in the circle.
Ah,
Now, of course, they don't do anything like that now. And I don't feel like it was traumatizing. It's actually hysterical to me because I do know that I
yeah.
do talking. But I I lost what I originally wanted to say. Oh, stories. I think that telling stories is important. And so what I would like to challenge the listeners to do is find a person, ask them to join you for coffee, ask them to come over for pizza, and just tell stories about whatever. Tell
Yeah,
stories. It's
I love
amazing
that.
what you find out when you hear stories about people and their
Yeah.
whatever it is that they want to share. Yes.
Yeah, I've been doing more of putting my phone away when I enter stores or I enter coffee shops, and then I make sure to talk to one person. Like, my goal is just to speak to somebody. And the shock and awe on people's face, it's like people don't know how to talk to each other anymore. Like, they're like, "You're talking to me? Like, what's wrong with you? You're not gonna look at your phone? I'll just ask questions like, how are you?" And they're like, "Are you gonna rob me or something? Like, what's wrong with you?" I'm like, I just want to connect. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to connect to
Yes.
people, because
Yes.
everywhere you go, you're just like
Mm.
head in the phone, and you're like,
I
oh my
am
gosh, look
I
up.
am such an extrovert. So I am the person in the Home Depot that literally looks at someone and says, "So you are in a 5 foot radius of me, so now I have to have a conversation with you." And then we end up talking, like we end up talking.
Yeah,
I
it's
figured out
beautiful.
why I don't mind waiting in line. We were
Yeah,
having this talk at dinner once, and I was like, I don't mind waiting in line. Why is it so hard for you guys to wait in line? When you go to Walmart, you're not the only person in the store. Why are you upset you have to wait in line? And then I
exactly.
realized when I wait in line, I get to talk to strangers.
Right?
Oh, oh,
Exactly. I
yes.
do
Now, the
too.
strangers may be like, oh gosh, there's that woman.
I
And she'll
love
put
it.
a poster flyer.
Yeah,
Run if
and
you
I'm
see
an
this
introvert
woman.
extrovert, so I
Ah,
need alone time to refuel. But I realize my husband's always like, "You're so good with people," and I was like, I'm really not. I feel awkward as hell. I just feel like, oh, I was gonna say the wrong. I always compliment at the wrong time. I
Mhm.
compliment at funerals. So if I come to your funerals, anybody, sorry, I'm awkward. I always say you look great. Not a great thing to say at a funeral, but apparently I say it.
Hey, you
I'm
never
so
know.
awkward and uncomfortable. And I'm like, at least they look good. Like you look great. You're keeping it together. Good for you. I mean, I don't know. I just say the wrong thing, but it's fun. It makes people laugh usually. They're like, "Whoa, okay."
You are your authentic self and you
Right,
say what's in your mind.
exactly. I try to infuse joy because we have too many people in the world who are not feeling great. So if you can laugh and you can just have fun, my
Yes.
sister's like, you laugh at everything. I'm like, I know it's my uncomfortable twitch. I might be, it just like it's my nervous system being like, am I being weird? But it's okay, be weird.
We embrace weird in my family. Our kids,
Exactly. You
we
gotta
do.
love it. But this was
Thank you so
wonderful.
much.
And
Thank
I
you.
would love to have you again for some more. And if anybody is interested in your schooling, are you enrolling right now? Are you allowing new
I
students? Do you have
am.
like,
I have two more spots
okay.
left.
Ooh, so act fast.
And I think that you'll have the links and all the
Yes,
information
correct. It
as
will all be in the show notes below.
yeah,
So if
yeah.
two more lucky people will enter the space, and
I
I think
It's so
it's so
much fun.
beautiful.
It is so, I cannot tell you how much fun I have with my students. Like
I
my
love it.
students, this is what my students say. Miss Stacy, can you please stop talking? I'm trying to work. I'm like,
I saw your post the other day and I could not stop laughing. It was like my students were the same. They're like, we're trying to work. I'm like, I'm sorry.
yeah. So,
It's so fun. Teaching is
no.
fun. So I'm so excited that you've created this space for children and if
Yes.
there's two other people who are wanting to join in, please come in. It's very parent obviously focused as well. So
Yes.
you're
Yes.
involved as well.
I'm actually adding in the fall a parent program. I'm kind of excited.
Ooh, that's really cool. I
Yes.
love that. Okay, well, we are going to sign off for right now, but thank you for joining us. And we are so excited to look at all the resources in the show notes and how they can connect with you and start to shift their own narrative on autism. So thank you
Yes.
so much. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today on the Page Trippin' podcast. I hope today's episode gave you a new perspective or a moment of, yes, I'm not alone in this. Remember, this journey of unlearning and feeling safe in your body isn't meant to be a solo trip. It's a process that requires support, guidance, and a safe community. If you're ready to move past just listening and actually start doing the deeper work of nervous system regulation, I'm here to help. My signature group coaching program, Emotional Fire Drills, is where we apply the tools we talk about here in a structured, supportive environment. We work together to help you build resilience and regulation skills you need to navigate life with more ease. If this sounds like the right next step for you, head to the link in my bio to learn more and see how we can start working together. I can't wait to connect with you next time. Remember, if you have topic suggestions, questions, or guests you'd like to have on the podcast, drop them in the comments or email me at pagetrippin1@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow the podcast, rate and review it to keep the podcast's mission growing. Thank you for unlearning and growing with me, and remember to keep tripping with intention. Until next time.